Hey everyone, I'm Nicole Guillaume with Guiding Echoes, the channel that encourages you to discover the wisdom of your soul. And being able to discover the wisdom of your soul is exactly what the New Age movement is all about. It's about being able to separate yourself from religion and go within yourself and find the truth within you, to find the beliefs, the opinions, and the spiritual wisdom that lies within you that brings you wholeness, that brings you fulfillment, that brings value to your life. And when you're able to separate yourself from dogma and theologies and from religion, it opens up your ability to investigate every spiritual belief on the planet, to investigate every philosophy that's ever been written or contemplated, because now you're no longer under the strict rules of a religious foundation or a religious organization. Now you have freed your mind and your consciousness to freely explore all of these different fascinating ideas, all of these different fascinating spiritual truths, opinions, and even falsehoods, right? There's even some spiritual ideas out there and spiritual beliefs that are a little strange. And unless you're able to pull yourself away from the religious dogma, you will never be able to seriously contemplate, discover, and get curious about the other belief systems that are out there. And the reason that I like the New Age movement is because it is a cornucopia of all sorts of different beliefs. So you can be a part of the New Age movement and you can read the Bible and believe in it. You can read the Bhagavad Gita and believe in that, or most of it. You get to cherry pick what works. You get to read all these different books and you get to incorporate different spiritual truths as they resonate with you, without the fear of judgment, without the fear of having some type of God or some type of religious leader telling you that you are wrong and you can't practice that way and you're not supposed to believe that. So that's why New Age movement is wonderful, is because there's a lot of freedom in it. You truly can believe whatever it is you want to believe. Now, in the New Age movement, there isn't an exact way of thinking or being. So when people say that New Age movement is a cult, that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong, because there is no one leader when it comes to the New Age movement. There's no one leader, there's no one God, there's no one belief system, there's no one book that everyone flocks to. But within the New Age movement, there can be cults, there can be different books that are considered the staples, and it all depends on who you talk to. For example, A Course in Miracles is a book that a lot of people in the New Age movement enjoy. I'm not one of those people. I've tried to read it several times and it just doesn't work for me, but that's me. And there's a lot of other people who read this book and they get a lot out of it. For me, I prefer like the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao, and there's still a lot of books in the Bible that I enjoy too. I don't enjoy the Bible as a whole because I think there's a lot of scary things in it, but I do enjoy things like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, and there's a lot of interesting books in there that do have some very profound, ancient, timeless spiritual truths in there. So as a member of the New Age movement, you can be in a cult if you want to, although I don't know why anyone would want to do that unless you're completely lost and you're like, I just need someone to tell me what to do with my life. I'll do anything. I don't care. I'll do anything. If you ever find yourself in that position, join some self-esteem classes and get some counseling, because going into a cult may not be the best thing, even in the New Age movement. There are some shady cults, guys. There are some shady cults. So in that way, the New Age movement actually is very new, because throughout the course of time, we've never been in an era where people had complete spiritual freedom like they do now. It's never existed. We've always existed in tribes and different areas in which there was a main religion. And it's still kind of that way today. Like, even though we have religious freedom in America and in several different countries, there is still a main religion. And by a main religion, it may not be a religion that is validated by the state, but it is still the religion that the masses will flock to. So, for example, in the United States, the most common religion is Christianity. So there's always a primary religion, but there is still the freedom to practice whatever religion you want in a lot of different countries now. So that's actually exciting. So because we have this freedom, we can read the different books, we can incorporate different philosophies, we can follow all these different spiritual leaders that really resonate with us, that have something to teach us. So that part of the New Age movement is also very new. A lot of people will argue with me, or will argue with other people in the New Age movement, and claim that nothing in the New Age movement is new because its philosophies predate the time of Christ. Like, these are really old philosophies and ancient truths that the New Age movement is founded on. And I would say for the most part, that's correct. I wouldn't even argue with you on that. But New Age movement does not refer to something being new or old. We know that most of the beliefs and philosophies we embrace are based on old, ancient, timeless philosophies. We know that. But what the New Age movement attempts to do is to bring in a new age. That's why it is a New Age movement. It's not a New Age religion. It is not a New Age cult. It's not even a New Age belief. It is a New Age movement. So what exactly is that movement? You may be wondering. So glad you didn't ask. But here's what I want you to do for you to really understand why the New Age movement is important. I want you to close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in and just breathe out. And one more time, breathe in and breathe out. And with your eyes closed, I just want you to contemplate a few things, because if you can really contemplate and understand a few basic truths regarding the New Age movement, if you can really visualize what I want to share with you, you'll understand why this movement is important to so many people, including myself. So I want you to think about what your life was like when you were a child. I want you to think about the home that you lived in. I want you to think about your parents. I want you to think about your dreams. Just allow yourself to get caught up in all those memories. Okay? So I want you to think about what your life would have been like if, as a child, every resource you ever needed was available to you. I want you to think about how your parents' behaviors and attitudes may have been if every resource they could have wanted or needed were available to them. Imagine what it would have been like to grow up in an era in which there was no violence, in which there was no war, in which poverty was not something that was understood or experienced, in which everyone always had a roof over their head, a bed to sleep in, food in their tummy, and had access to clean, fresh water. Imagine that that is a basic human right that everyone has. Now imagine what it would have felt like if you had gone to school and known that you were universally loved by everyone there. And imagine what it would have felt like to be fully accepted and embraced. Now, of course, there may have been some children that you didn't like and that may not like you, but you still knew that they would have compassion for you if you got hurt. You still knew that they were not going to intentionally hurt you or harm you in any way, shape, or form. You would know that your words are powerful and that what you speak can come into form, can come into being, can turn into reality. And I want you to imagine what it would have been like to live in a society where everyone had that knowledge, where everyone knew that their words were important. So they spoke positive words over each other, over themselves. Imagine what it would feel like to be completely safe as a young child, to be completely safe as a teenager, and to feel completely safe and to have all of your needs met as an adult. Imagine further what it would be like if you had been encouraged and inspired to follow the dream of your heart when you were a child, when you were a teenager, or even as an adult. Maybe as a child you wanted to be a doctor, but because of finances or because of what everyone told you, you ended up not going that route after all. Imagine that you wanted to be an artist. Imagine that you wanted to be an astronaut. Imagine you wanted to be some type of explorer, a politician, a spiritual leader, whatever it is that you wanted to be when you were a child. And the world told you, and maybe your parents told you, no, you cannot be that. That is not for you. That is not what we want for you. That is not okay. Well, imagine instead that in this new reality, you were praised for that idea. You were encouraged to follow that idea. You were given all the resources that you needed to fulfill that dream, to meet that goal. And if somewhere down the line you realize that wasn't for you, there wasn't a penalty for having changed your mind and to come to that conclusion. Instead, the road just changed. The resources changed. Any change that you had was welcomed, because sometimes you need to explore different avenues, several of them, before you know what's right for you. So imagine being completely embraced, inspired, and encouraged to follow that type of route. Imagine that everyone has access to that type of acceptance, to those type of resources, where everyone is encouraged and inspired to be the best versions of themselves so that they can bring forth their best gifts, their best skills, their best strengths to all of the world. What would it be like to live in a world like that? So go ahead and open your eyes. Can you see why this movement is important? Are you able to feel the difference between what it would be like to live in a world where your dreams are nourished, where you are completely loved, valued, and accepted just as you are for who you are, versus the stress, the judgment, and the chaos that you live in every single day in our current society, in our current world? Can you feel that difference? So that's why it's called the New Age movement, because we've never lived in that type of era before. We've never had that type of age, that type of era on this planet. It would be completely new. We've never had an era of world peace. We've never had an era where people absolutely loved each other and saw the value in mankind and saw the value in their neighbors, whether they were black or white, tall or short, disabled or able-bodied. Like, we've never, healthy or sick, we've never lived in that society before. But we can. It is possible. So that's what the New Age movement is, and that's why it's called a New Age movement, because it is something that many of us believe are possible. And we want to keep moving towards that plane. And so that's why messages like love and compassion, empathy, and forgiveness are so important, because these are values that we want to pass down to our children and that we want to model for other people who may not have seen those behaviors in action. There are a lot of toxic people out there who have a lot of toxic backgrounds, right? They had parents who were abusive, they had teachers that were mean, they had peers that were bullies, and as adults we can still have peers who are bullies. We can still be surrounded by toxic people. So we need to be that change. We need to be the change we want to see in the world, and that to me is what the New Age movement is about. And I understand that a lot of people are very hesitant to see a planet, to see a world in which world peace is a thing, because they're afraid of utopian societies. They're afraid that what they've read in the Hunger Games or 1984, what they've seen on Black Mirror, is going to come to pass. Now, obviously, we do not want to create a society in which we're all peaceful and a bunch of sociopaths and toxic people are calling the shots, are in leadership, are in charge. Obviously, we don't want that, right? So that's not how we would set things up, right? We would have leaders who are compassionate, who are full of empathy, who love the planet, who love people, who want to see people be healthy and strong, both mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually, right? That's the type of society we would all love to live in, because that's the type of society we would all thrive in. It is a society where we would feel fulfilled because we would be encouraged and inspired to follow our purpose, and we would have the resources that we need to be able to make that a possibility. We wouldn't go into debt when we followed our purpose, when we went to school, when we continued our education, so that we could be of value to mankind, to our fellow neighbors, to our fellow human beings. And the other problem is that a lot of people, especially those with religious backgrounds, are afraid to bring in this era of world peace because, well, for example, with Christians, they think that an era of world peace is also going to bring in the Antichrist. I hope that that answers the question as to what the New Age movement is, why it is not a cult, why it is in fact a movement, and why it is considered new. So there you go. I feel like I explained this articulately, but if you still have questions regarding the New Age movement, what it is and why it's called that, feel free to put those questions in the comments section down below. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, welcome to the Guiding Echoes community, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you can be notified when I release new videos in the future. Thanks for watching. Check out my other videos. I will see you next time.